I'm Kevin Tsang, and I'm lucky enough to serve the most amazing student team as president of CORE. We want to reiterate our thanks to CEO, CCE, CAA, Columbia Entrepreneurship, and all the partners and supporters who've made this opportunity possible for everyone here. We're going to move on next to the question and answer session. Before I introduce that, though, I wanted to highlight the Founders Trade Show, a selection of 9 fantastic startups run by Columbia students or alumni. They're tabling all night just near the ramps through the doors to your left. Please do check them out after the Q&A session. These are incredible Columbia entrepreneurs who strongly deserve your interest and support, so please check it out. I had prepared some heartwarming and personal anecdotes about James J. Valentini, Dean of the College and Vice President for Undergraduate Education, who is slated to moderate the Q&A session tonight. Unfortunately, Dean Valentini had a non-life-threatening health issue early today, and he had to pull out of the event. We want to wish him well, and we look forward to seeing him support more entrepreneurship events in the future. In his place, Dean Boyce has graciously agreed to moderate the question and answer session. If you're interested in asking a question, we do have mics in the front of the aisles, and so we just ask that you carefully, not rushing, queue up in front of a mic, and we'd be happy to take your questions. Without further ado then, please welcome back Dean of Engineering and Morris A. and Alma Shapiro Professor, Mary C. Boyce.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, CORE, for arranging such an amazing night. So, Jack, I'll be asking you a few questions, and then we'll invite questions from the audience. So I would invite the audience to begin to line up behind the mics while I start the questioning so that we're all set when that time comes. So I want to start off by first asking about your tortuous path. So we heard this amazing tortuous path to what finally led you to, say, Twitter, and where you really explored many different careers, and each seemed to also have an entrepreneurial component that was possible. Yet I also took away that you had this dispatch thing in the back of your mind as part of this. So I want to relate that back to your one of your favorite quotes when you said, "When I believe in something, I fight like hell for it," a Steve McQueen quote. And what was it that you really believed in? Was it the dispatching? Was it the passion to be an entrepreneur? What really was your driving force?
Well, what I love about that quote and what I think every entrepreneur is doing is they're being very, very selfish. They're building what they want to see in the world, and they're making the bet with the world that it resonates with other people. And sometimes we win the bet, and sometimes we lose the bet. In my own case, I wanted to see the world. I wanted to see everything that was happening. I wanted to see it in the screen in front of me. I wanted to be able to see what was happening at the Met right now, why everyone was swarming up there, what was going on. And the reason why was, first, I was just fascinated by how things work. And I could never understand how a city like this works. You know, it's just so many people, so much infrastructure, yet it hums and buzzes along, and it does so in relative order. How does that work? And just satisfying my own curiosity was one of those things. But also, as we developed Twitter and as we started learning more and more about it, and also Dispatch, you start learning that if people start sharing very simple things about what's going on in their life, sharing simple moments, it really makes the world feel very, very small. And one of the effects of building my maps and seeing everything that was happening in New York was New York felt very small to me. It felt something that I could approach, something I could interact with, something I could feel really great about. And as I've watched Twitter grow and I've seen people use Twitter all over the world, you see the same thing. You see this this shrinking of the world. You know, before the Iran election, Iran very much was a black box to me. I did not understand what was going on in the country. I did not understand how people on the ground saw it and interacted with it. But suddenly, during those election protests, people were taking pictures and they were sending tweets and sending videos. And suddenly, I had people on the ground who are sharing their experience. And suddenly I saw Iran in a completely different light. And it made, again, the world feel very, very small. So all of this, to me, serves towards a destination, towards an end of if we can encourage people to share just the smallest details of what's going on in their life and just talk about more things, we have a deeper understanding for how everyone wakes up, how everyone goes to sleep, what struggles they have to go throughout their day. And if we have understanding, we have the capacity to build up empathy. And if we have empathy, we can minimize conflict. And I truly believe that if we have enough people really focused on this and really seeing everything that's happening in the world, we can minimize conflict in the world. And that, to me, it would be an end goal of a system like Twitter, is to show what is happening in the world in order to lift understanding and lift empathy.
So when students are really trying to pursue their passion through entrepreneurship, you don't always know how big that moment is going to be when it happens. And what can we be doing here, at a university to encourage that sort of simultaneous pursuit while they're having their other obligations as a student? But we still want to enable that passion and that exploration.
Encourage them to join Square as an intern. No, but I mean, internships are stunning in terms of the amount of learning that you can do in a very, very short time frame. And when you're in school, like, it's just such a great tool to see a very, very different perspective about running and learning things. So we learn so much from our interns, and we treat all of our interns as we would any other Square. And we've had interns who've completely rewritten parts of our stack and really, changed our thinking in a lot of ways. But if you want to have an entrepreneurial mindset, then go work alongside other entrepreneurs that you respect and that you think you'll learn from. And there's a lot out there, and we have a company full of them. So it's a great option, but definitely encourage it.
So I think this is a great point, that the life and work experience all add up, are valuable on the path to an entrepreneurship, and it's not an easy path either.
Nope. And it takes a lot of creativity, invention, and then just patience and follow through.
Okay. Do you feel there was many lessons learned from Twitter that made the Square a faster path?
Absolutely. One of the things we did very, very poorly in the early days of Twitter is we had no idea what was happening with the system. So we had the system going down all the time because we had no instrumentation about this particular procedure and program was just using way too much memory or consuming too many resources. So everyone would speculate. And we got into this issue where people started speculating about what was happening instead of knowing what was happening, because we didn't have any instruments on how the plane was flying. And imagine flying a plane without any instruments at all. Imagine flying a plane without knowing, or driving a car without knowing how fast you're going. Right? It's scary, and you crash into things because you don't have a relation of what else is happening in contrast to you. You don't have the sense of momentum. So the one thing that we did to fix that was we started doing this thing of pair programming. And we got 2 programmers down to one computer. One person would have their hands on the keyboard, and they would actually verbalize the problem and verbalize the issue that they were trying to solve. And what this did is it spread the knowledge of the entire system and what was going well and what needed to be fixed throughout the entire company, because everyone would hear it all day long. We were 7 people. And we started building all this instrumentation. And one of the things that really came out of that for me is like, wow, we were really poor at communication in the early days of Twitter, like really, really poor. Our engineering staff would not talk to our operations staff. They would just throw tickets over the fence, and they would just hate each other. And yet, we were building a communications company, and we couldn't communicate internally. So what I learned from that and what we've done at Square is, number one, the first line of code I wrote was an admin dashboard to show instrumentation, show everything that's happening within the system and within the company. So there's no speculation and there's no guessing. Someone can just point and show that this is broken and here's how we need to fix it, right? And the second is really building a company that's reflective of the product. So as much time we spend engineering and designing the product, we also spend engineering and designing the company and ideally how we all work together. If you have two people who don't get along, who fight all the time, who can't agree on a direction, it will manifest in the product. It will. Like if the wallet team doesn't get along with the register team, it's going to manifest in the product. And that means we're putting our issues and all of our failures in front of our customers, and that's just rude and selfish, and we don't want to be rude or selfish. So we have to design and engineer the organization and the structure in order to build a great product. So we spend a lot more time focusing on building a great company in order to build a great product. And that goes back to that make of our mission, which is we want to be craftsmen. We want to be craftsmen. We want to really focus not just on the end product, but also the work to get there and be really proud of that work to get there.
I have two questions that come from students and alumni and lecturers. So first, a question by Donnell Baird, a second-year Columbia Business School student, who I believe is here tonight, if Donnell is here. Both Twitter and Square created new markets, meaning that customers were not sending each other group SMS-sized correspondence or using smartphones to transact credit card purchases at scale prior to Twitter and Square. Columbia guest lecturer Steve Blank, one of the most influential thinkers on the topic of entrepreneurship today, recommends that entrepreneurs creating new markets should allow for 3 or 4 years of lag time before customers catch up and the company starts gaining traction. What have you learned, and what advice do you have for entrepreneurs who are navigating the process of customer education when starting a new market?
Well, I mean, the biggest way to educate people is to show them what's possible and to show them something that works, they can actually feel and use in their hands today. And we put a lot of emphasis when we were starting with Square that we're not going to go out to the world, and especially to VCs, and tell people, we have designs on building this thing that enables you to accept credit cards from your mobile phone. We're going to show them by taking their credit card and charging them. And that will resonate. That will resonate in a wow, like how'd you do that? And I want that. So I found that there wasn't as much time to learn and to educate as we really needed, because it really struck a nerve in the market. This is something that people wanted to participate in. They were locked out before because of all the complexity and the cost and just the ridiculousness of what they have to go through just to start accepting credit cards. So that was actually quite fast, and it just resonated immediately. Right. What didn't was the industry's take on it. The industry educating the financial industry of why this was important. And again, we took that concept of show don't tell to them as well. And we went to Visa and we had them take out their Visa cards, and we swiped the cards and we showed them that, hey, check your statement, money is now off. And wouldn't this be great if you could now reach the 26 million small businesses across the United States that don't accept Visa cards? And they said, yeah, that would be pretty great, and let's figure out how to work together. So for us, it wasn't as much of a customer problem as it was an industry problem, and really teaching the industry to rethink itself a bit so that more people could participate and they could do it much faster. Eventually that worked out. It did take some time, but if you have patience and you have conviction about this should exist in the world, it does resonate with the right people. People do want to see more of it, and we want to build it. Patience always wins.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, why don't we start with the questions from the audience?
Hi, my name is Yang, and I study at Columbia Journalism School. So recently, through Columbia Journalism School's career website, I learned that Twitter is actually trying to hire head of media partnership across different countries and regions. So I apply. You could be my future boss, but may the best candidate win. But my question is really, how are you going to penetrate into China when Twitter is really banned there. And then recently, I think China's highest court has issued some sort of judicial guidelines, sort of like discouraging people to retweet or repost or comment online. So that's basically my question. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not just a question for Twitter, but the technology industry at large is really, and also businesses in the US at large, just really how to interact with China. It's something we're also looking at Square, and just as we look at broadening what we've done very well in the United States and Japan and Canada and going around the world. There's not going to be one clear answer to this, and a lot of it has to do with the people in China demanding that services like these that we're building, they can use them. And some of that's just like speaking up to the government, and I think you're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing a lot of people route around the firewall, and I think free and simple and easy communication always finds a way, and it will always find a way, and there will always be people who punch through the firewall and get their message out. And to me, that just shows what the future holds.
Can we take a question over here?
Hi, my name is Rosmi. I'm a first-year student, so this is my 3rd week of school, and I'm learning a lot, and everything is amazing. And I'm working hard, and it takes up all my time, but everything is good. But I'm also a programmer, and I like to create things, and I like to code a lot. And there's this struggle arising between time spent on the things you must do, like homework, problem sets, and the things you want to do, like create, applications and so on. And you describe yourself as a 3-time dropout. And my question is not necessarily, my question is not, would you recommend dropping out, so much as it is, how did you make that decision on, staying in school versus pursuing your dreams?
Well, I think everyone learns in a different way. And for me, I was learning faster and what I thought to be better outside of school than I was inside of school. And it was an easy decision for me until I had to make the call to my mother and tell her that I was dropping out of school again. And she still talks to me about, Jack, maybe it's time that you go back and you finish what you started. And I said, Mom, just don't have the time right now, but maybe in the future I will. So for me, it was a very easy decision because I was just learning so much and being able to build so much outside of school. And I think for a lot of people I know, it's a very different situation. They're learning more inside of school. They took internships. They tried to build something. They tried to build applications, and they were just learning richer and faster within school. So it's really a case-by-case basis, and you really have to follow your gut. You have to see what your intuition is saying. Is this the right choice for me, or is this? And I think schools like Columbia help with that, because a lot of the programming and computer science courses I'm seeing all over the country are encouraging people to be entrepreneurial, encouraging people to get small teams together and actually building applications and trying it out within the boundaries of the school program, which I think is great support and pushes you in a way that a lot of people need to be pushed. For me, being pushed outside was just more meaningful, but it's definitely not for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Philip. Jack, you talked a lot about creativity and kind of reinvention and having contributions from interns, et cetera. But at the same time, I think both Twitter and Square have been incredibly disciplined companies in terms of their product roadmaps. I'm sure you've kind of played around with video and photos at Twitter.
I'm happy it looks like that on the outside.
Perhaps back 2006, 2007, when you first got started, but that wasn't pushed out, and it wasn't something that kind of percolated through the pipeline and was released right away. And I was wondering how you think about kind of product releases and how, when it is okay to experiment and let all flowers bloom, maybe kind of Gmail style on 20%, and when it is important to pull back and push things even as much as years away.
Yeah, I mean, the simplest thing I've found is being a little bit selfish and building what I want to see in the world, and talking about it and bringing that idea and showing that idea to other people. And if it resonates, great, you continue to build it. And if it doesn't, you put it on the shelf, and maybe it comes back as another product or another idea or another movement that you have down the line. But I've found that like if you do that, you can actually prove the resonance with numbers. So I think a lot of companies operate, and we're going to build what we want to build and what we think the market wants to see. And then there's other companies that do all experiments and are doing a lot of A/B testing and building, reactively to how these experiments pan out. And I believe that life is always found in the balance. And right in the center of those two extremes of going to intuition and going to test is where I like to build, which is we're going to follow our intuition. We're going to build what we want to see in the world and what we want to use on a daily basis in the world. And then we're going to prove it with data. We're going to show that it works and that it resonates with other people and they want to see the same thing. And that's always been a very simple and easy way to think about like how we release a product. You know when it's ready. You want to put yourself under a constraint of time to try to get it, try to get it out on a normal schedule and to try to have that discipline in practice. But you're not going to ship things that you're not proud of. You're not going to ship things that you don't want the world to see and you don't want the world to use. So, follow your gut and then also prove it that it was actually the right choice with the data and how people use it.
Okay. We have many more questions, but we'll only be able to take one final one. So, please.
Hi, I'm David. I got my BS in mechanical engineering here in 2010, but now I'm working as a software engineer. My question is, what is your take on cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Litecoin? And do you ever see Square engaging with those types of financial instruments? And also, what is your favorite map projection?
Map injection?
Map projection.
Map projection. I don't know.
You can answer one or two of this.
Yeah, I mean, all of them. In terms of cryptocurrencies, so Bitcoin, I think, is a very, very fascinating idea. I think eventually there will be an alternative form of payment like that that allows for anonymous payments, that is free, that feels like cash, but is also secure and points back to the buyer and the seller. I don't know if Bitcoin is the best expression of that just yet, but it's certainly a good one. I think at Square, we've always focused on this philosophy of we're going to accept whatever form of payment comes across the counter, because that means the seller is always able to make the sale and always able to grow their business then. And that means the buyer can always purchase what they want. So I don't imagine a world where cash completely disappears or credit cards go away or Bitcoin completely takes over and we have one form of currency. I think we'll always have many. And I think the most important thing for us as a commerce company, not a payments company, is to make sure we can always facilitate that. And we can give data back to the seller so that they can make decisions around how to build their business. And we can give a great experience to the buyer so they keep coming back to those sellers. So to us, it's not really about the payment at all, or the device or the currency, because that's just one tiny little part of the entire continuum of commerce. And that's what we're focused on. That's why we're so excited about that canvas, because it's so large. It's as large as communication, but it's become more complicated, more heavy, more abstract, and more costly, whereas communication always becomes more frictionless, more free, and more easy. So our mission is to make commerce as easy as communication, as free as communication, and really build a company and a business around commerce instead of just payments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Let's thank Jack again, and then we'll hear from Alex.
Thank you.
Okay? So let's